brought to you by AbTab Creates. And so we're going to do some live creating. You should be seeing the chat this time if I have it done properly. And so I am Tim, and I am part of a publisher known as Absolute Tabletop. And so in our Facebook group, the official Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, we're having a creative weekend, AbTab Creates. And so what we are doing is just spending focused energy and mind share on creating stuff. Hey, Quad D20. Basically, so how do you participate? Well, you participate by just making something and then using the tag AbTab Creates. So hopefully everyone will join in here soon. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of the best way to use the live stream. But anyway, Jim Moreno is here. What's going on? Let's do this. Hey, Tim, woot woot. Let's create some cool stuff. So here is what I want to do. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Runehammer. That's the artist who created this awesome other piece of art that we're using today. It's going to be a part of our book. It's called A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin. It's a campaign setting guide. It's an atlas of inspiration. So I'm really jazzed about that. Yeah, but as far as the best place for me to view the chat, I think I'm trying to figure that out as well. Because right now it's saying I have all the chats set up and everything should be working well, but I can't see on my little, I have a multi-streaming dashboard. I can't see all of the chats. I can only see them on my own screen. Hey, what's up, James? James is here as well. So we're going to create something from scratch. I am going to be drawing from you in a little bit to figure out what we're creating, but I wanted to give some generalized ideas because this came up yesterday and I think it's super, super important. I think that the first thing you should do when you have an idea, aside from the cool, fun, think about it and brainstorm it, if you intend on doing anything with it formally, so anything that you publish or compile for someone else to enjoy, I think it's super, super important that you figure out two things. The first thing is the medium. You need to figure out the medium in which you want to release it. So if you're going to run a game and if you want to just use this as a campaign idea or a session idea, you don't have to do this. But, you know, people yesterday were talking about, well, I want to make comics or I want to make a movie or a video game, whatever that is. All of these different mediums are very, very different in the way that you enjoy them, but also in the way that you actually create for them. So I think that that's a huge one. I think that that's a big one where, and this helped Nathan Kaplan yesterday, he basically had his creative problem solved just because I helped him figure out the scope of his own project. So he's like, oh, wow, okay, that does help. Well, are you writing a TV show? Because that is going to have a bigger arc and a different style than if you're writing a motion picture or an adventure for a book. All of these things. So I think that that is the number one thing we need to do. We need to figure out the medium that you want to write for. And then the second thing you need to do is you need to figure out the scope of your project. I think a lot of people I believe that the scope of their project escapes them. And they do two things. One, they want to make it way too big too soon. You know, here's an example. Oh man, I'm going to make this series of books. And it's like, that's cool to have in your head. But before you decide that it's going to be a series, why don't you write the first book? Because the second thing that people do is they try to save all their good ideas for the next time. Oh, because in part 2, it's going to be really good. And it's like, actually, just put as much of the good stuff into the first whatever you're making as possible, because that is the only way that someone will ever make it to even the second one. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me jump in, and I am going to pull up the chats here because it's not working. I've got it working on the screen where you can see, but I have it so where I would have to watch my own screen the whole time, and there's really no way for me to scroll up and down, so that's not going to work. So, but be ready, because what we're going to do is I'm going to need everybody to chime in on what they think we should create. And the goal for today's stream is, by about 3 o'clock, I'd like to have something outlined. And when I say finished, I mean outlined as far as like beginning, middle, and end. We should have some sort of outline. Okay? So, if you have ideas now while I pull up these streams, you can throw them in either chat. I'll be on the Facebook chat and the YouTube chat. I will see many of the comments and things. If you're on Twitch or Twitter, I'll probably still see it, but it's better if you hop onto Facebook or YouTube if possible. Let me pull this up here. Hopefully everybody's having a really great weekend. To give you a little more info about AbTab Creates, it's truly just, like I said, it's us. We'll probably do this maybe like once a month, and it is us taking an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to take some focused, specific time, and we're going to go through and say, yeah, this weekend, I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of different things. When I'm creating, when I'm focused, I can finish something. So what I'll do is I'm just going to think about this big project that I have that I want to get done. And I think by doing it that way, I think that it really helps, because you're like, no, this weekend I'm focused on writing this book, or brainstorming the book, etc. All right, so let me jump over. I'm gonna make this a bunch of different things. When I'm creating, when I'm focused, I can finish something. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna think about. Cool. Now, I will be polling everybody. What do we think we should do? I think that it really helps as far as you're like, no, this the topic. What should we create today? And again, we're not going to, and I'll get into this because this is another huge trap that I'm going to help people avoid. Chris says, Tim, this is Facebook chat. Oh, cool. Chris Wilhelm, Josh, you on PC or mobile? Josh says, so multi-stream feedback. Video on Facebook seems clearer, but YouTube is about 10 seconds ahead of Facebook. There's really, that's a good point, but I can't really do anything about that. But it shouldn't affect things too much. All right. Chris Wilhelm, Enoch Newkirk. But behind a VPN, so I don't know if that's affecting it. I gotcha. Anyway, Nicholas Bonenberger is here. So does anybody have any ideas for what we should create? And we're going to create it live here. I have nothing prepared at all. And this is kind of the point. I wanted to have, because I also want to absolutely demystify this. I want to take away anything that seems like the lights need to come down from the heavens for you to get an idea and finish a project. I think that there's something gritty and just non-shiny, dull, I guess is a better word. Where's my editor? There's just something visceral and just, the word I'm looking for is not glamorous. It's just not glamorous to actually sit down and create something. If I only created when I felt like creating, Absolute Tabletop would not exist, and we wouldn't have 20 books, 20 plus books. And that's part of what I want to do today. Michael Maitland, can you have the YouTube people let us know if something happens 10 seconds in the future to give us a heads up? Enoch Newkirk says, let's make a Thieves Guild. I'll put that on the list. That's one idea. I'm happy to try that. Hey, what's up, Peter? Jim Moreno says, an artifact or a relic. Ooh, I love that. Okay, cool. So specifically, Jim, you want to make something for a D&D game? Like, is there a campaign you're thinking of running, or is there something that you have in mind that could help specifically? And I want to throw this out there. This is probably going to sound strange, but it doesn't have to be RPG related. We could do a film. We could do a comic, whatever you want to do. And I want to show you, we're going to create something live. I want to show you my process, at least high level, of just grinding it out. Just getting something done. How about a sports event? A bloody one. Ooh, I like that. Let's see here. How about a non-combat encounter? That's also very good. Let's make a shaker in the world. More of a neutral party that can affect the game would, like a politician, Thieves Guild leader. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull up, and again, I am absolutely doing this to show you that, look, it's just not very glamorous. I pulled up WordPad, okay? WordPad in Windows. So your tool, for the sake of what we're doing, it doesn't matter, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to screen share here for a second. So you should see the old WordPad here. Oh, I don't have the chat on this view. So that's probably better. So, okay. So someone mentioned a Thieves Guild. Okay. Someone mentioned a relic or an artifact. So I wasn't very clear also. These are pieces. So what I want to go bigger. What are we wanting? Are we creating an adventure? Are we creating a novel? Are we creating a story? Basically, what is our medium? So let's choose our medium. So in other words, and the reason why I say that is a lot of what you guys are suggesting is awesome, but it's not the hard part. Coming up with one thing is a little easier, like one relic or one Thieves Guild or one like world event or something like that. Hey, Evs, you got to keep your headphones on, babe. My daughter is watching her iPad right now. Shaker in the world. YouTube's going to strike me for a copyright. You got it, kid? Do you need help? If you need help, you can bring it over here. All right. So, let me go back to the chat. Ding, ding. Treaty negotiating. Let's see here. Jacob Norman says, I've been out of town and suddenly a whole creative movement with a hashtag and everything springs up. Nice. Sorry, man. Oh, non-combat encounter was the other idea. Treaty negotiating. Let's see here. Enoch Newcad. WordPad. Yes, and Enoch. The reason why I pulled up WordPad is because I want to show you that the tool is the least important thing at this stage. And I think that's important to differentiate because people that I know will get locked up in, before they create anything, they have, let me go on a Google Drive and create a filing system for how I'm going to keep my notes. Let me, instead of writing or instead of coming up with something, they go online to research a tool to organize all their ideas and all this other stuff. And frankly, it's just, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Those things matter when you're writing, when you're creating. When you actually have something to organize, we'll talk about organizing. When you have things that you need to track, we'll talk about it, right? But a lot of times people, they will feel productive because they go and they get and they sign up for a tool and they log in and they put their username in there and then they start creating pages for factions and then they put their campaign logo and all this other stuff. And that's fun. There's a place for that. But 2 hours later, you've still done zero, but you have tricked your brain into feeling productive. And so the itch is scratched and you really didn't get any work done. So again, I think it's important to remember that there is a time and a place for those things, but sometimes we get mired down and bogged down in them. Michael says, how about a city setting around the Thieves Guild and a relic artifact? That's perfect. So this is what we're going to do. So bloody sport and then the city setting. Okay. All right. So and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go from beginning to end. A short story meant to be in the style of Greek mythology or a fairy tale. That's perfect. We're going to add that too. So, short story meant to be like a fairy tale. Here's the thing. You might be thinking, Tim, this is way too much. There's a lot going on here. These ideas are kind of disparate. They don't seem to jive together and stuff like that. Good. This is where joining two things together that normally don't go together actually can almost always be the thing that gets you out of a tight spot of feeling like you've heard it before or it's boring. A non-combat, roleplay-focused relic, which the Thieves Guild wants. That's perfect. So the artifact or relic, non-combat. Thieves Guild wants it. Okay. So let's see here. I'm going to screen share. And so you might see double because I have to check the chats. So you're not going to see the chats here. You're going to see the chats when I pop them up here. So it's really going to mess with you because you're going to see chats that happened 10 seconds ago for some people. And I have it paused for bandwidth. So I'm like, eh. All right. Tornado Fire Studio says, just in case it didn't get caught by the chat, a short story in the style of a fairy tale. Perfect. Let's check the people from the future. A moleskin is my favorite idea storm tool, but organization comes later. Tell me what a moleskin is. If at all. That's funny. I don't know what a moleskin is. Troy Spencer joined. What's going on, Troy? Troy is one of the first people to ever get me into old school, like just OSR, old school Renaissance games. And so that's cool, man. Thanks for hanging out. All right. It's a short story meant to be like a fairy tale, a shaker in the world, Thieves Guild, relic artifact, non-combat, Thieves Guild wants it. So we'll do it this way. This is all impromptu, so I didn't really plan. Oh my gosh, that's probably messing with you so bad. That's like chats within chats interlinked. I won't do that. All right. Now, here's my process. This is what I'm going to do. If we're going to create a city, and this is where I think a lot of times things can get out of hand where there's so much to do. There's so much to create. And so this is where we can get bogged down. So to me, no matter what you're creating, you should have some sort of rough guideline for yourself and build that out. Okay. So we tell stories. This is the time when you're going to be tempted to start putting a bunch of facts down. And the problem with facts is they're boring. So we don't care. Unless it's important or unless it's conflict, we don't care. Here's what I mean. What's the population of the city? I don't know. It's crowded. Why is it crowded? Because that's better. It's more conflict, more people. So in my head, I'm thinking, all right, so I want to create a city. So where's it located? I don't know. And if it doesn't come up, it doesn't matter. Right? Because this is what happens. Again, I've seen this. Well, I want to put it on the side of a mountain. So now I got to stop. I'm going to go to Wikipedia and research mountains and how cities develop. No, we're not doing any of that stuff because that's not where the story is. If you want to just world build, totally different. But the truth is, most of that stuff's never going to get touched by the players. It's just like playing solitaire, which is fun. But what's our purpose? So here's what we need to do. I want to create a city that is full of conflict. So one of the things that I will do is I have all my brainstorm stuff here, and then underneath, I go down and I start just writing. So story is conflict. What does conflict mean? It's trouble. It's problems. It's a goal that someone wants, and then they can't get it. So what is the conflict? Okay. Now, here's the other thing. In a city, I would focus on the lens of people. Because a city it can be boring or generic. It doesn't have to be. But what I mean is, boring and generic is not correct. What I mean is a city can be lifeless. This is why sometimes in our games, the surroundings are static. They're these backgrounds that nothing's happening. The way to fix that instantly is just put people in the scene. If you've ever felt like your scene feels like flat, like it's kind of two-dimensional, and the players can be role-playing and everything's great, but you're like, man, this feels so small. Why does this feel so small? It feels small because add two people there who want different things, totally unrelated to your character. So, or your characters. What do I mean? In yesterday's stream, Enoch was talking about these two Oathbreaker factions. These paladins who have gone either the way of the flame or the way of the frost, or whatever he calls them. I would put two of them there in the scene and have them arguing. They're not outright fighting. Okay, so it's a tavern or it's a city, It's a marketplace. Now the city's coming to life to me. Because right here, a crowded thoroughfare, market stalls everywhere, a cacophony of people shouting. You notice a knight in orange tinged armor shove a knight in blue tinged armor. That's a scene. That's a story. Why? Why are they shoving? Who are they? What are they doing? Are they about to fight? And the story can go very differently. The other knight responds by gritting his teeth and breaking into a smile, and they embrace. Still interesting. Still super interesting because there are people there. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the chat real quick. Let's see. Oh, chatception. Oh, and then Enoch said maybe a thieves guild that goes around collecting artifacts around the world and then to push their political agenda, and an archaeologist trying to find the artifacts first, preserve history, like Indiana Jones. See, that's exactly what you do. You take a thing and then you have opposing sides. That's really all story is. Let's see. Moleskine. I forgot the E. Just a nice notebook with a good cover and a cloth bookmark built in. Ah, I see. Josh says the relic or artifact is used as the trophy for the bloody sport. That would be great. And maybe that's something that... See, because the thing is... so here, the relic or the artifact. Trophy is used. But the point I'm making is that this city is... It's only going to be interesting if there are people in it doing stuff. So I think I want to focus through that lens. So let's make sure... In other words, when people world build, and this is okay, we think... And just challenge yourself for this. You think, all right, cool, I have this awesome, this bloody sport. And then it's very easy to think in what I call like blurred images. You just have this blob in your head that's this rough generalization of this bloody sport. And you're like, yeah, and then people, they do this, and there are these, and you never dig real deep and go, the owner of a team for this bloody sport has a huge gambling debt due. Boom, already I'm like, what? Why? What's going on? So just take a person and put him at odds. Just what's the worst thing that can be happening? And then make him need something. So in addition, he also has to get to his daughter's wedding, which is tomorrow. And so the story goes. So we begin, right? So now it's like, what? Now the city matters. Before, it's just a city. Who cares? You know what I mean? And again, this is the difference between world building or story building or conflict building or crafting compelling narratives, is that you put people there. And the cool thing about that is what I just described could be right now for a traveling Major League Soccer team, or it could be way back when in our world for like a jousting tournament, or it could be it could be in the future, super sci-fi like Tron motorcycle. Because that's what makes things universal. That's what makes things is that we relate to people, we relate to other humans. That's why we want to know what happens next. Okay? So, let's take the second half of this, which is the next 30 minutes, and let's take each of the things that we did, and this is the trick. So what I'm going to show you. We're going to take each of those things, and we're going to assign a person to them. And this is the web we start building. This is how we build our pieces. And to me, this was game-changing. This is the difference between having a static shape of a world or having a living, breathing conflict machine that'll generate you stories forever. Let me check the chat here. Let's see here. Josh says, oh, like a Stanley Cup, but more valuable. Michael Maitland says, 2 factions looking for the relic or artifact, one being the Thieves Guild. Love it. Maybe the trophy hides something or is part of an ancient ritual. See, I love all this. But again, notice, and it's not a slam, do you notice how a lot of our plot twists I'm telling you, they're just going to get a lot more real when I assign an actual NPC to them. That's the other thing, too. You got to stop thinking of your NPCs as NPCs.
Why?
They should have lives, and you don't have to plan those or roleplay them. But my point is, stop making a two-dimensional character by just going, oh, I need this person to be in the session, and they'll come in, and they just, they're the team owner. No. Make a rich conflict. Doesn't have to be this full backstory. I don't even know what this person looks like. I don't even know if it's male or female. But what you need is a couple of conflicts. You start doing that, and all of a sudden, your campaigns, your games, your stories, they just write themselves. Let's see here. Michael Barker's here. What's going on, man? Michael Barker says, that's really all a story is. Man, this is the truth. It's why factions and their minions or leaders make the best NPCs. I agree. And I think, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to tie all this together, and I love this. This is so cool, everybody. Oh, and Lee Wilton says for his world, he has a guild of tomb raiders that protect all magical items. It's also called the Tombs and Tomes Society. Amazing. And is secretly ran by a lich. Oh, I love that. What's up, Nicholas? L.A. Jackson is here. You don't have to plan that daily life. Well, let me tell you, I actually know you already do that, L.A. The Mapronomicon has, like, a detailed, memorized knowledge of his entire city. Like, he knows the shifts. I will not forget this. He knows the shifts of which guards are on duty and all that sort of stuff, which I think is amazing. Like, I would never be able to keep all that straight. I don't have the hard drive space for that, but that's amazing. On point, Tim. This is Barker. Instead of saying I need a rich team owner, say I need someone who hates a person A directly or opposes cause B. I'm going to make that person the team owner. Exactly. Once I started doing that, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to jump over to full screen. Oh, wait, I didn't check YouTube. So let's see here. Nicholas Bonenberger. A city-state. That sounds actually awesome. So that's Nicholas Bonenberger and what you're looking at. Say that. Thieves Guild in a city-state with a bloody sports event that involves an artifact. We're on the same page. Exactly that. In fact, we're going to do a copy-paste of that because that kind of sums up everything. And so I call that the high concept. Okay? You'll hear me say that a lot. What's the high concept? That means that it's your elevator pitch. And if you don't have an elevator pitch, if you can't say it that quickly, you don't know what your story is yet. Okay? If you can't say a thieves guild in a city-state running a bloody sporting event is trying to get an artifact. That's the story. That's the high concept. I'm there. I'm super there. If you can't do that yet, you need to choose a lens. Pick a lane. No. But I think that's very important. Because again, we don't just build worlds. If you build a dead, still world, then that's no fun for the players. That can be fun for you, and that's okay, but that's not what we're doing here today. What we're doing here is we're going to make a story. This is going to be alive. This is going to be something awesome that we're going to want to know what happens. And that's the secret. If you are like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen, you'll look forward to running that game, right? Let's see here. What you're looking at says, I think we just ripped a hole in the time-space continuum. Timception. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Okay, so we have a lot of these different pieces. Now, again, my trick, something that works really well for me, is I start to take these pieces that we have, and then I start assigning people to them, and then give these people just the worst stories, just something awful that's happening. This is their inciting incident. You know, yesterday there was no story. Today there's a story. So I then figure out ways to connect those dots. And the trick with a campaign is that you can come up with these people and their stories, and you set them all on the chessboard. And then depending on the player's moves, you move a piece. Depending on the player's next move, you move another piece. Okay? And it's not to win or beat them, but it's to create conflict and story. And then you can slowly start taking and drawing lines between these. Attach this to this. Oh, this works here. Oh, I didn't know. oh, you know what would be great if this person was this, right? So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a crack at this just so that you can see me doing it, because I do love drawing from the chat, but I want to also deliver a little bit on let's create something from scratch and kind of show you what I would do. Sometimes just seeing someone do it is like, oh, it's that ugly and unrefined. Yes, 100% yes. You know, you make something awful today so you have something to edit tomorrow, okay? You can't edit a blank page tomorrow. So I'm going to put a person next to this. So someone made a comment like a shaker in the world, a mover and a shaker. So this is free flow, free form. Someone who would have power in a city state is a politician. I also am a terrible speller. And I don't think that there's any kind of spell check on this. So it's going to be great. So I think this is going to be a politician, female, and her partner just left her. Her romantic partner just left her. Okay. So I don't have a name. I don't have anything. But now we're all kind of starting to figure out, okay, all right, why? Why did her romantic partner leave her? I don't know. We're going to figure that out later. All right, Thieves Guild. Okay. So this Thieves Guild, I'm going to put a person to it. So it's going to be a, I don't know, I like the idea of a right-hand man who was made the leader when the boss died suddenly. Looks like murder, but he can't prove it. Who's loyal? Is he next? Boom. I got a right-hand man who the boss died suddenly. Looks like a murderer, or it looks like a murder, but he can't prove it. Now, already, this person has a story. These could easily be the characters. And that's the trick. Your NPCs should not feel like NPCs. I should be able to have a spin-off show with just them, and it should be just as good. Okay, that's the trick. The relic, the artifact. Okay, so it's non-combat, and the Thieves Guild wants it. I liked the idea of a relic hunter has... You know what? As an adventurer, it's fun to be like, there's an artifact. We found it. Let's follow the map. And that's not bad. I think there's more conflict if this person has the relic. I just think that's way cooler. Relic Hunter has this relic and just recently found out it's secret. And then this is another trick, okay? Don't stop here and go, oh no, what's a good secret? Don't do that. Do not, do not, do not, do not. Open up your bracket here. Secret. Okay? And then you can come through here and highlight it so that you know you have stuff to fill in, right? So I'm not going to let that stop me. If I stopped here to try to figure out a secret, and then before you know it, I'm on Wikipedia, and then I'm watching Arrested Development on Netflix, and I don't get anything done. Non-combat encounter is, and we will go through this, we will get ideas. You can give me ideas for anything you think even should change. Okay, so Shaker, Thieves Guild. These are the pieces. Relic or artifact. Okay, now non-combat encounter. To me, I think it's opening. I'm trying to think of how to say it. Opening ceremony for bloody Olympic Games in the city-state. But day before the opening of bloody Olympic Games in the city-state. All party, and I don't know this. So here, so I'll go like this. I'll be like, again, this is your friend. Don't stop and try to figure this out. This is now what you can figure out later today and throughout the week. And you'll be driving, and you'll go, that's it. That's why they're meeting. Perfect. Slot it in there. So what I'm gonna do is some sort of inspection deal or something. Bring characters together in same spot somehow. Okay, I don't have that piece. That's fine. I just bracket it, and I come through here like this, and then I highlight it. Boom. So I don't even know, and that's fine. This is how you finish something. The bloody sport, the trophies used. So I am gonna I'm gonna list off some things that I think. So like football with a head or something. Love me some hockey. So can that work? Like Mayan field hockey? I don't know. Well, and then here's what I'm gonna do. Invent our brutal Quidditch. That's it. This is how you get something done. And I'm telling you, this might seem super simple to you, but I'm outlining what I then need to go and do another pass and then another pass. And in Absolute Tabletop, we have things called a cohesion pass, or we have these different passes because we understand that this is what it takes to get something done. If I were to start up here and try to flesh this out until it was finished, this politician female, that's it. I would work 4 hours and I would have just a person, one thing fully fleshed out. You got to think of this like an archaeological survey. You don't want one super deep hole. You want a lot of holes of varying depth all over, and then you explore them and excavate. Okay? The city setting. So let's see. We decided it was going to be city-state. And so what do I want to do here? City-state. What's the gimmick? The cool thing. Cities. Gimmick. And the cool part is that this is what we're going to work on. All these things in yellow, this is what I'm going to poll all of you for. I haven't checked the chat in a while. I'm almost done. I'm going to take my high concept and put it on top. Okay, now I have not forgotten. Short story meant to be like a fairy tale. Okay, now I'm super into just throwing stuff out and then like throwing stuff out there, throwing a concept in there and saying, we'll make it work later. And if we don't, this step starts my journey to a place I never would have gone otherwise, right? So, short story. Okay, this is very conceptual, but is someone retelling this? Is this ceremonial? Maybe this is where or what the meeting is about. Perhaps a scribe needs to write out something for the Olympics. Okay? Short story connection concept meta idea. Okay? I also love framing devices. A framing device is a device outside of the story or the book that you use. I'll give you an example of one. In Assassin's Creed, you can't go off of the map. Okay? A framing device is giving an in-story reason why you can't. And they say that since you are in the memories of an ancient ancestor, they don't remember that part. And so it's a little bit of a hand wave sometimes, but it's really just this thing that sort of is another layer outside of the story as a whole to give it more depth and context. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Let's save this. Actually, here, I'll go full screen. All right. Save this to the desktop, and we're going to call this City State of Blood. Okay. Back to the chats. I'm sure there's a bajillion things going on here. All right. Peter says, non-combat encounter. The boss wants to see you. Jim Moreno says, stages is the process keyword here. It's a long-used writer's method that fits perfectly in with world building. Completely agreed, Jim. Completely agreed. And if you go too deep into one thing before you need to, it's a bad waste of your time, because what will happen is you feel like you haven't been productive because you still have that anxiety that's caused from an unsolved problem, right? So back to Facebook chat. We got a ton of schmillion things here. Let's go. Enoch says, maybe the sporting event is an underground fight club tournament held underneath a tavern that's owned by the Thieves Guild, and these battles can be a 4-person free-for-all, not necessarily just one-on-one. Here's what I'm going to do. Now we're going to talk about the idea net, okay? Here's what we do. We're going to take... This is the idea net, okay? These are the kinds of things that when you have an idea throughout the week, you take them and you put them at the bottom of the document. And I'm going to show you this. So, Enoch, we're going to have this happen. It's just not going to be the main games. Here's what I mean. Check this out. Check this out. Okay. All right. So down here, it says conflict, because we still don't know how these pieces exactly intersect. What's the conflict here? But here's what we're going to do. We always go like this in AppTab. And I like to use like weird little ASCII. Brainstorm /notes. And then, listen, I'm sorry. I'm going to just copy. I know this is crazy. I'm going to copy and paste so that they're even. Okay, so now I have my brainstorm notes. So down here, and then I like to like bold it so that I kind of know what the note's about, right? So then later it's like Fight Club, so that when I'm stuck or when I need something for up here, I go down to my brainstorm and I go, oh, cool. So this is where I call it the idea net, because these ideas, you're just kind of like trolling. You're like, you got your little motorboat. No, I'm just kidding. The net picks up things. You're watching that show and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's actually a neat idea. Oh, that's cool. You then, for me, I have a notepad on my phone. Just drop it in there. And then usually once a week, at least once a week, I take all the stuff from my phone and I drop it into a document like this. You have to be diligent to do that, or make sure your stuff's backed up to the cloud, or you can lose stuff. But if I don't do that, that idea that hits me when I'm watching, you know, a Netflix show or reading a comic, whatever, like, oh, that's actually really clever. It's gone forever. And you might think, no, I'll remember it. You will, maybe for like a day or two, but then the sheen wears off and you're like, oh, what was it again? It was something about robots. Oh, well, don't do that. Back to the chats here. Seth Long. NPCs should have something at stake within the setting. Exactly. Even a lowly farmer is concerned with how he'll manage to afford to keep his little plot of land going. And that's perfect. And so let's take that a step further. I like to put exact specific conflicts. So Seth, that's a brilliant idea. So here's what I would suggest. There is someone coming tomorrow to collect the money that he doesn't have. What? You want to know what happens, right? Come on. Who doesn't want to know what happens to this poor farmer? Now all of a sudden you're like, what? The players are like, well, can we help him get the money? It's just, it's human nature. And now all of a sudden, they're going on an adventure. It's crazy. So Ellie Jackson says, I like the idea of there being several underground Fight Club oriented venues. They maybe lead to a BBEG that actually possesses the artifact. Love that. Going to copy and paste that to the idea net. This is another thing. Okay. So many Fight Clubs. Because the final thing I want to do here is come up with the exact conflict that is going on. Like the story. Every Tim stream I think, oh, it's that ugly and unrefined. Amen. Elith Moon says, is he next? Dun, dun, dun. Or pull a Tolkien Thanos thing. You work to get the artifact. You fight the bad guy. Then the bad guy boss steps in. Boom. Bigger evil fight. Oh, that's brilliant. And Barker's so right. It always happens when you're driving. You're like, oh, got it. Josh says, I hate outlines. And that's okay. Understand that James and I are wildly, vastly different in this area. He is an outliner. I am more like seat of my pants writing checks. So I'm like a mix of a discovery writer and an outliner. It is very common for someone to be like, nah, I don't outline. I just discovery write. But you have to understand that what kind of runner are you? You know what I mean? Are you long distance? Are you a sprinter? Are you... And the reason why I say that is because the way that you choose to write, you need to prepare yourself for that mentally. If I'm prepping for a jog just around the block before I eat some dinner, that's way different than if I have to train for a marathon. So to me, discovery writing is a marathon. And you just have to understand that and know what you're getting into, or else you can be wildly discouraged. And your stuff could feel like you don't have any form or function, and it's like, oh, this is just a big waste. What am I doing? So write however you need to write. If you hate outlines, hopefully, because this is technically it's an outline, right? But it's not. I didn't outline a story. I just listed some people and their problems. Oh, and he says, but I'm aimless without them. And then Barker says, preach, Josh. I've grown to love them, but only because I've embraced just how helpful they are to me. And the beauty of an outline is they just catch the net, right? They just, or they just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. They're a starting point. You can throw them away, but it just gets the idea. It's snapshots, the concept. Like right now, we have this full doc that I could probably hand to a competent DM and they could run it. Just off the cuff, like, oh, okay, yeah, here, so-and-so walks in, that sort of thing. Hey, what's going on, Locrius? And Josh Law is here. Ellis Moon says, building the story by the base blocks can help lead to bigger, better ideas. It also allows for more freedom or room to change things around instead of having to come back and rewrite everything to fit a new idea. That's a very good point as well. City State of Blood. Players have to rig a fight. Oh, I love that. Dropping that into the brainstorm doc. Players have to rig a fight. Love it. Because the way I would present that is I would say, I would have someone approach them. Okay. Maybe that's here it is. This is how this works. All right. Players have to rig a fight. I'm taking that. And I'm going to come up here to... Oh, you know what? Let's see. Head coach. Loop. Head coach needs to win a needs a sizable sum of money by like tomorrow. And also his daughter is getting married the day of the big game. Why? Because that is the worst possible thing that could happen. That is the most conflict I could put. I could say, and his daughter's getting married soon and he needs the money. That's fine. That's not a bad conflict, and that's good for TV. I need something right away where it's like, now this person has to make a character choice. But head coach of Bloodsport. Okay. This is where I'm going to put Chris Wilhelm's thing. Players have to rig a fight. The idea this head coach has is he's like, listen, he basically figures out that if he has someone throw a fight, he can win a bunch of money. And there you go. Okay, we have about 8 minutes left, and I'm going to try to tie this together. I'll make this doc. I'll drop this into a Google Doc if everyone wants to just mess with it and put notes and stuff. I don't care. Fill in the secret, or maybe I'll post it in the group. That's what I'll do. I'll post it in the group, and then that way people can comment on it, and we can use the hashtag AppTabCreates. But I want to now take this last few minutes and put together a conflict that involves these different things. All right. Let me check the chat one final time here. Josh Glisson says, a gardener versus architect writers, even a gardener needs to plan what he's going to plant. That's fantastic. And then Seth was talking about that farmer we were talking about. He used his last bit of coin that was supposed to go towards seed for crops feed his animals on a bet in the game. He was told it was a sure thing, but things went sideways and now he's in debt. Going to grab that and add it to the Brainstorm doc. In fact, I think maybe that farmer goes to the Thieves Guild for a loan. So the farmer needs loan from Thieves Guild. And again, I'm just dropping this stuff into the structure that I already made. You can call them buckets, you can call them sections, whatever it is. Let's go. I'm going to screen share, and then we're going to make a conflict here, okay? Now, with all of the things that we have here, we can tell a lot of different stories. This is, in fact, this could be probably like a little 3-session mini campaign. Just the setup, at least. This is setup, but the way that I figure out what lens I want to look through and how I'm going to come up with a conflict is I look at my high concept. A thieves guild in a city-state with a bloody sporting event, that involves an artifact. So I want to go back to that because that was my high concept. So all these things should play into that, okay? So the conflict is, I think it should center around the Thieves Guild. And the reason why I say that is because that's kind of the vibe we're going for the city. So the conflict is, because we talked about this Thieves Guild being in an upheaval, right? So there's a right-hand man who was made the leader when the boss died suddenly. So here's what I want to do. What's happening right now? What is the thing that's like, So on the day of the... And I'm going to make it the opening ceremonies. On the day of the opening ceremonies, a Thieves Guild fractures into and goes to bloody gang war. Okay? Why? Because everyone in the city would be affected by that. The farmer who needs gold. Maybe he's a retired adventurer. Right? So now he's a goon. Hired goon. Okay? But this also means this shaker, this politician, okay? Shaker needs to figure it out. So all eyes on her. Oh boy. Don't get nervous. Control Z. Save often. All eyes on her. That's why Google Drive is awesome, because it would be saving all of this in the cloud incrementally for me. All eyes on her to get this problem solved. Thieves Guild. Right-hand man needs to stop this. Boss would not have wanted it this way. Against the code. So I don't know, I just invented some sort of honorable, old-timey thieves code that was important to the boss. So again, what am I doing? I'm just coming up with stuff that I think, oh yeah, this is at odds. So this high conflict here, on the day of the opening ceremonies, a Thieves Guild fractures in two and goes to a bloody gang war. Now, the farmer is there, maybe getting a job. Maybe he needs to do a little something for some coin, which faction he's going to side with. The Thieves Guild, the right-hand man needs to figure this out right away because the boss's name is being sullied. This is not what he would have wanted. Shaker wants this all to stop. Okay? So, what I think I need... real villain. The bad guy in the Thieves Guild who started the Civil War. The gang war. What are you going to say? Gang faction war. Now, here's the deal. He knows the artifact's secret. I don't know the artifact secret, but this person does. He or she, bad guy or girl. Okay, they. Now here's the thing. I don't know the artifact secret, but they do. And you do not have to figure that out at the start of the session. That's a huge thing to let simmer and sit And then I would wait to see how the course of the campaign went, and the secret that fits my story that we have built, your story that we've built at the table, the secret that fits that best, boom, that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. That's pretty much it. And then I would save it, and that's it. I'm done for the day. I would close this out, and I would probably let it chill. And then tomorrow, I come back in here, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's think about this. I could write notes. I could write ideas. And if you have an idea of what the secret is, you can put a placeholder in there until a better one comes along. I can invent brutal Quidditch. Now, this, for me, this research feels very direct. It feels like I have something worth researching. So instead of spending 2 hours listlessly and not getting any of this document done, instead, I now know tomorrow I'm going to take like 30 minutes and I'm just going to Google weird sports. And I'm going to, because in 2019, you can actually Google weird ancient sports and have a list. And you can drop links into your doc and all that kind of stuff. But now that's it. We made something from beginning to end. Like I said, this could be a trilogy, at least. But that's how I recommend doing it. I recommend going through and just, you come up with your high concept, right? Then you bullet out things like Shaker, Thieves Guild, whatever you need, and then assign a person to the cool thing. That is how you solve, I think, most of World Builder's disease, is you immediately now have this person who's like, wow, that's way more interesting. If I just said Thieves Guild, come on, we're all imagining the same shady alley with hoods and whatever. But if I say there's a right-hand man who was made the leader because the boss was murdered, now it's a story. You know? All right, let's jump in the chat one final time before we wrap it up. There's a lot of really good comments in here. Pavia says, there's a week or two build up to the final fight where several fight-based activities happen. Like unregulated flights and sleazy taverns, like fantasy cockfights, basically, where the prize is access to a clean fight. That's actually a really good idea. Chris Wilhelm says, head coach is willing to take a loan from a fraction of the Thieves Guild, but the players rigging the fight means the coach doesn't need the money anymore. Right. And these are the kind of lines you can draw. And the way that I would do it is I would present these things to the players, and I would essentially see what they leaned on and what they loved as a player and what they wanted to do. And that's what I would make it. That's the plot line. I wouldn't have this plot line fully ready, done, and prepared. I'd go, okay, here's some ideas. Here's my idea net. What's interesting to you? And I do that through role play, through presenting a few things to the players, and they're like, oh, cool, you know what we want to do? Because, right, like what's rule -1? The players will never do what you think they're going to do. And so you think, okay, here we go. I'm going to present this perfectly, neatly bundled idea, and they are going to help the coach. And then they go, hey, we want to join the Thieves Guild. You're like, oh, okay. I highly recommend you go, all right, let's do this. Don't say, no. Don't you want to help the coach? Let the story be what the story is. The bookkeeper in the Thieves Guild. Oh my God, that's amazing. Michael Barg says, this is an excellent adventure hook to drop into an existing campaign. If it's to be used as part of a start of a game or a one-shot, I would have one of the players adopt the role of the farmer or guild operative or another current NPC direct tie-ins, baby. That would be brilliant. And players are usually on the level where they're like, hey, I'm looking for, what do you think? Would you have any ties to this guild? Or would you have any, oh yeah, I love, most of the time players, if you just say, hey, play along, how would you be connected? Or if they say, hey, I really want to kind of explore poverty in the world, but oh great, hey, do you mind being in debt to the Thieves Guild? Most time they'll go, oh, that'd be awesome, yeah. So absolutely. DBJ, what's going on? He says lots of space for social and exploration, such as sneaking around, bribing officials, investigating the artifact, all that stuff. Exactly. In the future, when I do screen shares, will make sure to leave the chat up because I realized that I missed the opportunity, if you're rewatching this, to follow along in the chat. So I'll make sure that I do that in the future. Checking Facebook. Now I'm checking AbTab. Lot of really good stuff on the YouTube channel about the right-hand man could have been estranged from the law or an authority, the royal, exactly. That would be great, like a disgraced bodyguard. And then DBJ says, if the PCs do nothing, the world should move them, force a choice. Even neutrality creates conflict. That's brilliant. And exactly, this civil war will rage on and show the effects of that. Let it ripple. Someone you know and love is murdered because you didn't act. I mean, that's terrible, but I mean, they'd go, whoa, whoa. What's up, Justin? Mappernomicon said the bankers. Like, yeah, like there are so many cool things. And here's what I want to point out. And this is how we're going to end it. I want to point out that we know in the best way, we know nothing about the size of this city. We know nothing about what it looks like, what time period it's set in, the population, any of that. None of those things. The things that could normally be what we focus on when we world build, right? This to me is way better because you have all you need to run it without having to stop and build a city from scratch. Now comes the fun part. Now if you want to world build, you absolutely can. And you can involve the players. Hey, what district would you be from in the city? That's the beauty of having great players. They'll be like, oh, I'd love to, and they'll invent this district. You just drop it in there. But notice how we didn't talk about their imports, their exports, their favorite food, and all that stuff. You can do that. But this, to me, is way more important to story and to actually making something that you can play and use at the table. So, yeah, so this has been brought to you by AbTab Creates. Thank you so much, everybody. Actually, my dad and my brother, James, are coming here today, and we're going to play some board games, I think. And but I highly recommend, if you're not a part already, absolutely go join the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. Okay. That's where all this is taking place. We are an indie publisher and we make what we'd use. And this is an effort to, for a full weekend, we'll probably do this maybe like once a month, focus on just devoting some time to a creative project that you've been trying to finish that's just maybe a thorn in your side, or maybe you've been meaning to get started. That's what this is all about. So it's been a great weekend and it's far from over. It's only 3 o'clock, at least Eastern, and even earlier for some of our other friends, later for others. But there are still a few hours in the day, so maybe sit down and do one of these, Maybe we'll call this a Tim storm because we have a bark storm. But I love how creative everyone is. I love that when we do have this focused effort like this, notice how everyone shows up and just starts coming up with amazing stuff. It's when we focus our mind toward being creative, it's almost always simpler, I feel, when you're like, all right, I'm going to sit and do this. I don't care. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make something up. Boom. Josh Clifton says, makes you see how you build a story and use roll tables for stuff like imports and after the story is there. Exactly, right? Exactly. You can come up with all kinds of cool roll tables, gather different stuff from Reddit and all that stuff, but your core story is there and you could run that in a fiasco game, So anyway, love you all. Be sure, if you haven't, subscribe, no matter what platform you're using to watch this, and follow us. So if it's Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, you got to make sure you get the notifications as well, because I'll do this as often as I can, either from my phone or on the desktop here. But that is the best way to make sure I went live, rather than counting on Facebook's events, which have been a little hit or miss lately. But anyway, we're going to end it here. It's not as cool as an energy drink, but I'm about to drink an energy drink with James, and I don't want to have too many because I already had one today. Shh. I had a little relapse. It was planned. Anyway, may you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Sláinte.